So traders, tis I, TheRumpledOne, coming to you on Tuesday, April the 29th. The year's 2025. Let's talk trading. Losing okay with Walmal. These videos are for educational purposes only. Your results may differ from mine and different from Walmal's. And since we're talking about losing, always have your risk management in place so you don't lose any more than you're willing to lose on any one single trade or during any one single session. So Walmal, you were in an interesting position earlier today. You were short and it kept going against you.
Yep,
You weren't okay
I
with
was a loser.
losing.
Well, no, but at the same time, what I was doing is, well, let's put it this way. Let me take a step back to answer that question. Was I okay with losing? Probably not. But at the same time, it's sort of like you think about Major League Baseball or baseball in general, right? The batter gets up there, and if he's sitting there and you got a 300 average, that means that you make average hit less than 1 out of 3 times. If you're in the major league, you're a Hall of Famer. Okay, let's just be honest about it. You're a Hall of Famer, and you lost 2 times out of 3. And that's just part of the game. It builds in the game. Well, what you need to do in trading, you can lose. You can lose, multiple trades, trade after trade after trade, and still be a successful trader. You say, well, how can that be? Well, the thing is, when you're taking your loss, how are you taking the loss? Are you taking big losses? Are you taking little losses? Did you put limits in there to go protect yourself? And I know I probably sound like a broken record here because I say the same thing on just about every single video. And I will say it as long as I get invited here to do this with my friend TRO, I will always say it because I absolutely believe with all my heart. And it's what turned me from being, first of all, a losing trader who lost accounts to a trader who was breaking even to a trader who makes money. And then simply comes down to simply this. What is your risk management? How are you going and mitigating against it? And what are you doing to go and be okay with you losing? I mean, and I was in that trade, TRO earlier, you're absolutely right. I was, the original trade, I was probably took a loss of 20 tips on it. And but at the same time, at the end of it, I wound up making a ton of tips. Well, how is that? Well, because I sat there and came up with, I had a plan. And when I say came up with a plan, I don't mean I came up with a plan on the spur of the moment, right then and there. No, this was a plan that I've had in place for a long time. And what happened was I had to go and execute it. And the plan was, okay, yeah, it's going against me. I got to go and make a decision. Decision one, just get out of the trade. I didn't make that decision. Why? And that was a mistake because what happened was I turned around and started looking to see what the news was going to be for the day. So I didn't have the charts up, and the trade ran against me. Excuse me, it ran against me, and I didn't get out when I should have gotten out. But because of my idea of I don't trade my full lot size, what or the full amount that I'm allowed to go and trade, I wasn't in any danger of going and hitting what I was willing to lose for the entire day. So I stuck with the trade. And then what I did is I started paying into the trade because it was part of my rules. And if I'm in that situation, if I get other trade opportunities to go and add in, I will go and do it as long as I don't exceed what I'm willing to go and lose for the day, as long as I don't go and exceed what I'm willing to go and have out there in terms of how much exposure do I have. And because of that, yeah, I was losing big on the first trade, and then I was losing, not so big on the second trade, not so big on the third trade, and losing not so big even on the fourth trade. But then I finally did turn around, and when I turned around, I was able to go and add even further. So I was in five, 5 or 6 trades, I don't recall exactly, but I got all the way within.
You were in 10 trades.
10 trades, that's right. But by the time I was done, what had happened was the very first trade, I think I took a loss of maybe 7 or 8 pips. when I had made so much more pips on the other trades because I stuck to my rules and I didn't exceed my limits, I was able to make a ton of pips. So that's my trading plan. That's what I do. And I don't advocate it for everybody. But it's just what works for me. And the thing is, you go and make this trading work, what you need to do is you need to go and have an account side that'll allow you to go and keep on adding in, which means, well, when you take your trades, and let's say your account allows you to go, I don't know, have a 20 pip stop loss, have one line. Well, what that means is when I take a trade, I would not take a 1 pip, trade. I take maybe a 0.2, and that way, or even the 0.1. Why? Because then by doing that, it allows me to go and constantly add in. I've got more room to go and absorb that loss. And at the end of the day, when it all comes out, I wind up, by the time I'm done, I'm actually at or pretty close to what my full bottom price or last risk would be. And I'm on top. Hopefully that makes sense. Hero, if you didn't, clean it up for me.
Well, I think, like you said, risk management, you have it and you follow it, you stick to it, and that's just it. You have the discipline. And the other thing that you did mention, you trust the method. So like you said, the reason you were in 10 trades because you had 10 signals and you took each one.
Right. And because that's part of the method. The method isn't, okay, oh crap, I'm down, 5 pips. Let's just go, let's say I was looking for a short. I don't just go short there, for no apparent reason. No, you take the signals, trust what you see, trust the charts, and as long as you go and keep on taking the signals, you're probably going to be okay. Does it mean that you're guaranteed to be okay? No, it doesn't. But that's also why you have your ultimate, stop line that's out there. Like, let's say you're willing to go and lose $100 on the trade. Well, when you get to that point where you're down $100 on the trade, you get out, and you have the discipline to get out. I can't tell you, Kiro, I know you've had this conversation with other traders as well, but I can't tell you how many traders I've talked to, and they say, well, actually, I'm down my $100, which I'm willing to go, willing to go and, take the loss. But, I know it's going to turn around. I know it's going to turn. I'm just going to stick with it just a little bit longer. The problem is you stop moving the stop loss. Next thing you know, instead of stop loss being at 10, it's now 20, it's now 30, it's now 40. Now my account's gone. And that's what happens. You can't do that. You said the exact word that you need to say. That is, you have to have the discipline, and you have to be willing. There are going to be times when you're going to get stopped in the face. Someone's going to punch you in the face, and it's not pleasant, but it's going to happen. And it's sometimes it's a big loss.
Well,
but
yeah.
The thing is, you got to go ahead.
I was just going to say, and it's that, I think we talked about it before in the, recent video, is that as soon as you put money on the line, I don't care if it's a micro lot, your emotions get involved. And we were sitting there yelling at the screen or rooting like, come on, come on, come on,
Yeah.
But if you don't have anything, no money at risk, no skin in the game, you can sit there, look at the charts all day and you don't get emotional.
No. In fact, you can even say, hey, look, the market's going to go down to the 3,400. That's where it's going, and if it doesn't get there, that's okay. But the thing is, if you make the bet that it's going to get down to the 3,400, and it does what it just did on the previous M1 handle, where it hit 3,408 and then bounced all the way up to the 10 line, then you're like, well, upset.
Big time.
That's just that's the game. And it's funny because I've heard Hero, I know you've heard this too, that from many traders that oh, the whole game is rigged and it's rigged against me. I can't make money on it, and, and
They're running my
it's so broken.
stops.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. They're running my stock. But, what? I guarantee you guys, there is no boogeyman out there that's sitting out there saying, I'm going to go and run the stops on Walmart or run the stops on TRO. Okay? The market's way too big for that. Just not going to happen. It may seem that way, but the thing is, that's not what's happening. It's just that, you made a bad guess. It's just that simple. You made a bad guess, and it ran against you, and that's just the way it is sometimes.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny right here. We had that news bar, that big bar. Now it's come all the way back down to the open of that bar. It's like, how many times do we see that? But the
Oh yeah,
question is, can you wait 15, 20 minutes for that to happen?
right. And that's the thing.
Or more.
That's why, and that's the reason why I do the trading that I do, because there were so many times it did that. I said, you know what? If it goes against me, what can I do to mitigate against it? If I know that it's going to go back there, let's say I had taken the short there, okay? Well, what can I do to go and make myself profitable in that situation? You know what? If I don't go and expend all of my gunpowder here, I've got more gunpowder I can use if it happens to go against me, where I can go and make money because, let's say I put a short in at 08 and it got all the way up to 20, and I got another entry, let's see, at 16 or 17. Okay, and then I got another entry somewhere around, 12. And now I'm sitting here at 10. So now, I'm underwater on the first trade by 2 or 3 pips. The third trade, up 2 or 3 pips. But the second trade, I'm up, 8 or 9 pips. Hey, do you know what that means? That means I can get out of all 3 of them and be up 8 or 9 pips.
Right.
And minus all the commissions and everything else, the cost of business. But the point is, at the end of the day, I'm up 5 pips, and I don't have as much on the line, but I've made all those pips, with some load. Some load, in positive is better than all load against me.
Right.
So that's just my way of thinking. So, and the thing is, you said this, and I'm going to reiterate it, and that is, you got to make sure that you take signals. You're not just throwing it out there, and hoping for the best. No, you got to take signals. And that's it.
Yeah, and you just have to trust those signals,
Exactly. If the signals aren't working over a long period of time, well, maybe that's the only time you start going and saying, okay, I got to look for maybe a different methodology or something like that. You don't just do it, oh, it didn't work this time. No, it's sort of like, what has it done over the last 6 months? What has it done over the last year? That's when you start making decisions like that.
Right.
Because then when your method jumps, then you're really in trouble.
So Oracle, where's price going from here?
Okay, I'm going to give you the safe answer. It's going to go somewhere.
No, I'm teasing. I was going to tell the traders I'm teasing Walmal because yesterday he said it was going to get up to 34.23, and sure enough, it did.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure where it's going to go now because it's hit a lot of the marks it needs to hit, and we got NFP coming up on Friday, so I think that it's probably going to meander around a little bit, wait for those numbers to come out that are going to be so important for the U.S. economy.
Yeah, and you know what, fellow traders, the fastest 15 minutes in trading is just about over. So let us know how you guys feel about losing and what you do to mitigate your risk. Because I want you to always remember and never forget, it's not what you trade, it's how you trade it. So go out there and drain the banks. This is the Rumpled One, over and out.